The emergency alarm screamed through Kepler Station like the cry of a dying star. Dr. Hyunwoo dropped his coffee cup and watched the dark liquid spread across his desk as red warning lights bathed his office in crimson shadows. In his 20 years of running the galaxy's largest medical facility, he had never heard the code black alarm. It meant something was coming that could kill them all. His communication panel flickered to life with an incoming transmission. The image that appeared made his blood turn cold. Commander Yuna's face filled the screen, her usually calm features twisted with fear and something else he had never seen before. Pure terror. "Doctor, we have a situation," Yuna said, her voice shaking. "A Vorthak hunting vessel is approaching our station. It's badly damaged and losing life support fast." Hyunwoo felt his heart stop. Every civilized being in the galaxy knew about the Vorthak. They were living nightmares that came from the dark corners of space, 8 feet tall with biometallic scales that could stop plasma rounds. They had claws that could tear through steel hull plating. Their teeth were sharper than surgical instruments and their strength could crush bones to powder with a casual grip, but worse than their physical abilities was their nature. Vorthak were perfect killing machines. They hunted not just for food but for the pure joy of the kill. They would track prey across entire star systems, never giving up, never showing mercy. Once a Vorthak marked you as prey, your death was just a matter of time. "How many are aboard the ship?" Hyunwoo asked, already knowing the answer would be worse than he feared. "Just one," Yuna replied. "But doctor, it's not just any Vorthak. Our sensors have identified the biosignature. It's Kale Vorth." The name hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. Kale Vorth wasn't just a Vorthak. He was the Vorthak, the apex predator among apex predators. Other Vorthak spoke his name in whispers. His hunting record was legendary across 17 star systems. Entire civilizations had fallen silent when his ship appeared in their space. Stories about Kale Vorth were told in every corner of the galaxy. He had single-handedly destroyed the Theta Colony defense fleet, all 47 ships, without taking a single hit. When the Crystalline Empire tried to execute him by throwing him into their sun, he had survived and emerged stronger. The insectoid armies of the Hive Worlds had sent 10,000 warriors to hunt him down. None returned. "What's his condition?" Hyunwoo asked, though part of him already knew what Yuna would say next. "Critical. Multiple system failures, internal bleeding. His ship's medical systems are completely destroyed. Doctor, he's going to die if we don't help him." Hyunwoo stared at the screen in disbelief. "Help him? Yuna, do you understand what you're asking? The Galactic Medical Council has standing orders about Vorthak patients. We don't treat them. We can't treat them." "I know the orders, doctor, but he's still a sentient being. Our oath says we help all sentient life." The oath. Those words had guided Hyunwoo through every difficult decision in his career. But this was different. This wasn't about medical ethics or difficult procedures. This was about survival itself. Hyunwoo pulled up the classified medical files on Vorthak physiology. The reports made for horrifying reading. Every attempt to provide medical care to injured Vorthak had ended in disaster. Their biology was so aggressive that even while unconscious, their bodies would attack anything foreign. Medical instruments dissolved on contact with their blood. Surgical equipment was destroyed by their natural biotoxins. The Andorian Medical Corps had tried to help an injured Vorthak warrior 5 years ago. The entire medical team had died horrible deaths as the patient's body released clouds of toxic gas during surgery. The Centauri had attempted to use robotic surgical systems to avoid direct contact. The Vorthak's electromagnetic field had turned the robots into twisted metal sculptures. Even sedated and dying, Vorthak were killers. Their nervous systems would trigger defensive attacks without conscious thought. Nurses had been torn apart by patients who never even woke up. Doctors had been poisoned by blood samples that shouldn't have been toxic. The medical establishment had reached a simple conclusion. Vorthak were beyond help. Their biology was too hostile, too dangerous, too alien. It was better to let them die than to risk innocent lives trying to save creatures that might kill their rescuers. But as Hyunwoo read through the reports, something bothered him. Every failed attempt had followed the same pattern. Medical teams would try to impose their techniques on Vorthak biology. fighting against their natural processes instead of working with them. It was like trying to perform surgery during an earthquake while the patient fought back. "Doctor," Yuna's voice brought him back to the present. "His ship will reach us in 6 hours. What are your orders?" Hyun-woo looked at the data streaming across his screens. Kyle Vorth's life signs were failing rapidly. Without immediate medical intervention, the most feared predator in the galaxy would be dead within hours. Part of him thought that might be a blessing. The universe would certainly be safer without Kyle Vorth hunting through it. But another part of him, the part that had dedicated his life to healing, couldn't let any sentient being die without at least trying to help, even if that being was a monster. "Prepare the isolation ward," Hyun-woo said finally. "Full containment protocols. I want security teams on every level and emergency evacuation routes planned for all civilian personnel." "Doctor, are you sure about this? If something goes wrong?" "Know the risks, Yuna. But I also know our oath. We'll try to save him. Whether that's possible or not, we have to try." As the communication ended, Hyun-woo sat back in his chair and wondered if he had just signed the death warrant for everyone on Kepler Station. Outside his window, the stars looked different somehow, less friendly, as if they were watching and waiting to see what would happen when the galaxy's greatest predator came face to face with its healers. The next 6 hours would change everything. Either they would find a way to save the unsavable, or they would all die trying. In the cold depths of space, Kyle Vorth's ship drifted closer, carrying death itself toward their doors. The conference room had never felt smaller. Dr. Hyun-woo looked around the table at his senior medical staff, each face showing the same mixture of fear and disbelief. Outside the reinforced windows, space looked peaceful and calm. In a few hours, that peace would be shattered by the arrival of death itself. Dr. So-min, the station's chief xenobiologist, was the first to speak. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she held her data pad. "I've reviewed every medical file we have on Vorthak physiology. The conclusion is always the same. They cannot be treated safely." She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. 3-dimensional images of Vorthak anatomy rotated slowly, showing the alien biology that made them perfect killers. Their hearts pumped acid instead of blood. Their bones were stronger than most metals. Their skin secreted toxins that could kill most life forms on contact. "Look at this," So-min continued, highlighting different systems. "Their immune response doesn't just fight infection. It attacks anything that doesn't belong. Medical instruments, surgical tools, even the air we breathe becomes toxic in their presence. Their bodies are designed to kill even when they're dying." Dr. Tae-yang, the head of emergency medicine, nodded grimly. "I've seen the reports from the Andorian incident. The medical team didn't just die. They were dissolved alive by the patient's blood. The Vorthak never even woke up." Hyun-woo pulled up the classified footage from that disaster. The images were horrific. What had started as a routine emergency surgery had turned into a nightmare. The Vorthak's body had released clouds of toxic gas that ate through protective suits like acid. The surgical team had died screaming as their flesh melted from their bones. "There's more," Tae-yang added. "The Centauri tried using robotic systems to avoid direct contact. The Vorthak's bioelectric field was so strong it turned their surgical robots into scrap metal. Even their computers shut down from electromagnetic interference." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Even if they found a way to operate without being killed by toxic blood or dissolved by acid, they would still have to deal with energy fields that could destroy their equipment. Commander Yuna's voice came through the intercom. "Medical team, update on the approaching vessel. Kyle Vorth's condition is deteriorating faster than projected. We now estimate 4 hours until arrival, and his life signs suggest he won't survive much longer than that." Dr. So-min shook her head. "Even if we wanted to help, we don't have the right equipment. Our surgical tools are designed for normal biology, carbon-based life forms with predictable immune responses. Vorthak are something else entirely. But he's still a sentient being," Dr. Tae-yang said quietly. "Our oath doesn't make exceptions based on species. We swore to help all intelligent life." Our oath also doesn't require us to commit suicide. So-min replied sharply. What good are we to anyone if we're all dead? How many other patients will die because we threw away our lives on an impossible case? The argument that followed was heated but quiet. Everyone knew that other species throughout the station were watching and listening. The decision they made here would be studied and judged by civilizations across the galaxy. Dr. Hyunwoo listened to both sides while reviewing the data again. Every logical analysis pointed to the same conclusion. Treating Kyle Vorth was impossible, and attempting it would likely kill everyone involved. The smart choice, the safe choice, was to refuse treatment and let nature take its course. But something nagged at him as he read through the medical reports. Every failed attempt had followed the exact same approach. Medical teams would try to impose their techniques on Vorthak biology, fighting against their natural processes instead of understanding them. It was like trying to swim upstream in a river of acid. The conference room door slid open and a young man entered. Jin-ho was the newest member of their medical staff, a human who had transferred from a small colony hospital just 6 months ago. He was quiet and hardworking, but many of the other staff still saw him as inexperienced. Humans were relatively new to galactic medicine and often viewed as primitive by the older civilizations. Excuse me, Dr. Hyunwoo, Jin-ho said respectfully. I heard about the situation with the Vorthak patient. I was wondering if I could review the medical data. Dr. So-min looked at him with barely concealed irritation. This isn't a learning exercise, human. We're dealing with the most dangerous predator in known space. Your species has only been practicing galactic medicine for what, 50 years? Jin-ho's face didn't change expression. Yes, ma'am. But sometimes a fresh perspective can help. I've been studying Vorthak physiology in my spare time. There might be something we're missing. Missing? So-min's voice rose. We're not missing anything. The data is clear. Vorthak biology is too hostile for medical intervention. End of discussion. But Dr. Hyunwoo was intrigued. What exactly have you been studying, Jin-ho? The young human activated his own data pad and projected a different view of Vorthak anatomy. I've been looking at their biology from an evolutionary perspective. Every species develops traits for survival. The question is, what if their aggressive medical responses aren't just random hostility? What if they serve a purpose? He highlighted the Vorthak immune system. Look at how their bodies react to foreign objects. They don't just attack them, they try to break them down and absorb useful components. And their toxic secretions, they're not just poisons. They're also incredibly powerful healing agents when properly controlled. Dr. Taeyang leaned forward. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe we've been approaching this wrong. Instead of fighting their biology, what if we worked with it? What if their aggressive responses are actually sophisticated healing mechanisms that we don't understand? The room erupted in argument. Dr. So-min called the idea ridiculous. Other staff members pointed out that every medical expert in the galaxy had reached the same conclusion about Vorthak treatment. Jin-ho was just a human with limited experience, but Dr. Hyunwoo found himself thinking about the young medic's words. What if they had been looking at this wrong? What if the key wasn't to overcome Vorthak biology, but to understand it, Commander? Yuna's voice interrupted his thoughts. Medical team priority update. Long-range sensors show Kaelvorth's ship has suffered additional damage. We now have less than 3 hours before arrival. I need a decision on treatment protocols. Dr. Hyunwoo looked around the table at his staff. Dr. So-min and most of the others clearly wanted to refuse treatment. Dr. Taeyang seemed torn between duty and survival, and Jin-ho sat quietly, waiting to see what would happen. The decision would determine not just Kaelvorth's fate, but possibly the fate of everyone on Kepler Station. Either they would find a way to do the impossible, or they would all die trying. Jin-ho, Hyunwoo said finally. How long would you need to prepare for your approach? The young human's eyes widened. You're actually considering this? I'm considering that maybe it's time to try something different. How long? Jin-ho checked his calculations. 2 hours to prepare the equipment and medications, but doctor, this has never been attempted. I could be completely wrong. Dr. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. You could be, but everyone else has already tried being right, and it hasn't worked. Maybe it's time to try being wrong in a different way. The die was cast. In less than 3 hours, they would discover whether human intuition could succeed where galactic wisdom had failed. The medical preparation bay buzzed with desperate activity. Jin-Ho moved between equipment tables like a conductor leading an orchestra of salvation. His small team worked with focused intensity, knowing that one mistake could doom them all. Nurse practitioner Yoonji prepared specialized biocompatible materials, while medical technician Dongmin calibrated instruments that had never been designed for what they were about to attempt. Word had spread throughout Kepler Station that the humans were actually going to try treating Kael'vorth. In the observation galleries above the medical bay, representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness what they believed would be either a miracle or a massacre. The crystalline healers from Andromeda clustered together, their translucent bodies shimmering with nervous energy. They had developed healing techniques over millions of years, and they thought the human approach was primitive and doomed to failure. Some had even started placing bets on how quickly Jin-Ho would die. The insectoid surgeons from the hive worlds buzzed anxiously among themselves. Their collective intelligence had analyzed every possible approach to Vorthak medicine and found them all lacking. They watched the human preparations with the fascination of scientists observing an interesting but futile experiment. Down in the medical bay, Jin-Ho ignored the watching eyes and focused on his work. His approach was radically different from anything that had been tried before. Where other medical teams had tried to suppress Vorthak biology, he planned to embrace it. Where they saw obstacles, he saw tools. Yoonji, how are the biomimetic compounds coming along? Jin-Ho asked as he adjusted a surgical laser that had been modified with organic components. Almost ready, she replied, carefully mixing a solution that looked like liquid metal. The cellular structure should be close enough to Vorthak tissue that his immune system won't immediately attack it. But Jin-Ho were guessing about so much of this. I know, he said quietly, but educated guessing is all we have right now. The theory behind Jin-Ho's approach was simple but revolutionary. Every failed attempt at Vorthak medicine had tried to impose foreign medical techniques on their biology. Surgical tools made from materials their bodies would reject. Medications designed for completely different immune systems. Procedures that fought against their natural healing processes. Jin-Ho's plan was different. He would use Vorthak biology against itself, turning their aggressive immune responses into healing tools. Their toxic secretions weren't just weapons. They were also incredibly powerful regenerative agents when properly controlled. Their electromagnetic fields weren't just destructive, they could be used to guide cellular repair. Dongmin, status on the bioelectric modulators? Jin-Ho called out. Calibrated and ready, Dongmin replied from behind a bank of humming equipment. The field generators should be able to match Kael'vorth's natural electromagnetic signature. In theory, his body should accept them as part of his own systems. The word theory hung in the air like a death sentence. Everything they were doing was theoretical. No one had ever tried to work with Vorthak biology instead of against it. Jin-Ho was betting all their lives on ideas that existed only in his. When Dr. Hyunwoo entered the preparation bay, his face grim. Jin-Ho, I need to ask you one more time. Are you absolutely certain about this approach? Jin-Ho paused in his work and looked at the older doctor. No, sir. I'm not certain about anything, but I've studied every failed attempt at Vorthak medicine, and they all made the same mistake. They treated Vorthak biology like it was broken human biology, but it's not broken. It's just different. He gestured to the equipment around them. Look at how they heal in the wild. When a Vorthak is injured, their body floods the wound with what we call toxins, but those toxins break down damaged tissue and stimulate rapid cell growth. What if we could control that process instead of stopping it? Commander Yuna's voice echoed through the medical bay. All stations, the Vorthak vessel has been detected at the edge of our sensor range. Estimated arrival in 45 minutes. Medical team, final preparations should be completed immediately. The announcement sent a chill through everyone present. In less than an hour, they would face the most dangerous predator in known space, a creature so deadly that even other Vorthak feared him. and they were going to try to save his life. Jin-Ho made final adjustments to his equipment while his team completed their preparations. The surgical suite had been completely redesigned for this one operation. Traditional medical tools had been replaced with bio-compatible alternatives. The operating table itself was now a living biomat that could interface directly with Vorthak. Physiology, Yoonji finished preparing the last of the specialized medications. Jin-Ho, I have to ask, what happens if you're wrong? What if his body attacks us despite all these precautions? Jin-Ho was quiet for a moment. Then we die. But Yoonji, what happens if we do nothing? He dies, and we never learn whether there was another way. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. The observation galleries filled with more spectators as news of the attempt spread. Military commanders wanted to see if the greatest threat to galactic peace could be eliminated by medical incompetence. Scientists hoped to gather data on Vorthak physiology from whatever remained after the disaster. Philosophers debated whether saving a mass murderer was morally justified, even if it was possible. Dr. So-min appeared at Jin-Ho's side, her expression troubled. I still think this is madness, but I've prepared emergency containment protocols. If things go wrong, we can seal the medical bay and prevent contamination from spreading to the rest of the station. Thank you, Jin-Ho said sincerely. I hope we won't need them. So do I, she replied, for all our sakes. The final minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Jin-Ho used the time to review his procedures one last time, checking and double-checking every detail. There would be no second chances once they began. Either his approach would work, or they would all pay the ultimate price for his hubris. Dong-min monitored the approaching ship's signals. Jin-Ho, I'm reading massive electromagnetic disturbances from the Vorthak vessel. Even unconscious, Kael'Vorth's biofield is affecting our instruments from thousands of kilometers away. That's actually good news, Jin-Ho replied, though his voice was tense. It means his body is still fighting. If we can redirect that energy instead of trying to suppress it, we might have a chance. Commander Yuna's final announcement came over the intercom. All stations, the Vorthak vessel is requesting emergency docking clearance. Medical team, your patient will be in your care in 10 minutes. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all. Jin-Ho looked around at his small team. Yoonji's hands were steady despite her fear. Dong-min was focused on his instruments, ready to adapt to whatever came next. They were about to attempt something that the greatest medical minds in the galaxy had declared impossible. But humans had always specialized in doing the impossible. From the moment they first looked up at the stars and decided to reach them, humanity had made a habit of achieving what others thought could not be done. In 10 minutes, they would discover whether that tradition would continue, or whether it would end in the medical bay of Kepler Station. Outside, Kael'Vorth's ship approached like a harbinger of doom, carrying the universe's most perfect killer toward those who dared to try saving his life. The docking bay trembled as Kael'Vorth's ship clamped onto Kepler Station. Even through the reinforced hull, everyone could feel the electromagnetic disturbance radiating from the dying predator. Emergency lights flickered throughout the medical section, and several sensitive instruments shut down completely from the interference. Jin-Ho stood outside the medical bay, watching as the transport gurney approached. Even from a distance, he could see why Kael'Vorth was the most feared creature in known space. The Vorthak was massive, easily 8.5 feet tall, with biometallic scales that gleamed like dark mirrors. Even unconscious and dying, his presence filled the corridor with menace. The security team pushing the gurney wore full containment suits, but Jin-Ho could see their terror through the transparent face shields. One of them stumbled as Kael'Vorth's arm slipped off the gurney, and for a moment everyone froze, expecting the predator to wake up and begin killing. But he remained unconscious, his breathing shallow and irregular. Medical bay is sealed and ready, Yoonji reported through the intercom. All emergency protocols are active. Bio-containment fields are at maximum power. Jin-Ho nodded and began putting on his modified surgical gear. Unlike the heavy protective suits used in previous attempts, his outfit was lighter and more flexible. If his theory was correct, he would need to work closely with Kael'Vorth's biology. not hide from it. Dr. Hyunwoo appeared beside him. Jin-ho, I want you to know that whatever happens in there, you're the bravest person I've ever known. Or the most foolish. Possibly both. Thank you, sir, Jin-ho replied, checking his equipment one final time. I guess we'll find out which one in a few hours. The medical bay doors opened and Kaelvorth was wheeled inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, every alarm in the room began screaming. His biofield was so strong that it was setting off the station's threat detection systems. The automated defenses had to be manually overridden to prevent them from attacking the patient. Jin-ho got his first close look at the apex predator and understood immediately why no one had ever successfully treated a Vorthak. Kaelvorth's wounds were horrific. Massive tears in his biometallic hide exposed internal organs that pulsed with alien rhythms. His blood wasn't red like human blood, but a dark green substance that seemed to move on its own. Vitals are all over the place, Dongmin reported from his monitoring station. Heart rate is erratic, brain activity is minimal, and his electromagnetic field is fluctuating wildly. Jin-ho, I don't think he has much time left. Jin-ho approached the operating table where Kaelvorth lay dying. This close, the predator's presence was overwhelming. Even unconscious, his body radiated danger. His claws were longer than Jin-ho's fingers and looked sharp enough to cut through steel. His teeth were visible through partially open jaws, each one a perfect killing tool. But Jin-ho forced himself to see past the fear. This wasn't a monster lying before him. This was a patient who needed help. The most dangerous patient in galactic history, but still just a living being who was dying. Beginning initial assessment, Jin-ho announced, reaching for his first instrument. The bioscanner had been specially modified to interface with Vorthak physiology, but he still held his breath as he activated it. The scanner worked. For the first time in medical history, someone had successfully taken readings from a living Vorthak without the equipment being destroyed. The data that appeared on his screen was unlike anything he had ever seen. His cellular structure is incredible, Jin-ho murmured as he studied the readouts. Every cell is like a tiny factory, producing dozens of different compounds. No wonder their biology seems so aggressive. They're not just healing, they're constantly rebuilding themselves. Yoon-ji monitored the patient's vital signs while Jin-ho worked. Blood pressure is dropping fast. Whatever you're going to do, you need to do it soon. Jin-ho began the delicate process of cleaning Kaelvorth's wounds. Traditional antiseptics would have been useless against Vorthak biology, but his specially prepared biocompatible solutions seemed to be working. Instead of attacking the foreign substances, Kaelvorth's immune system was accepting them as useful additions to his natural healing process. So far, so good, Jin-ho said, carefully removing debris from the largest wound. His body isn't rejecting the treatment compounds, but we're about to face the real test. The real test came when Jin-ho attempted to repair internal damage. This was where every previous medical team had died. The moment they tried to perform surgery inside a Vorthak's body, the patient's immune system would go berserk, flooding the area with toxic secretions and attacking everything in sight. Jin-ho inserted his first biocompatible probe into Kaelvorth's chest cavity. Every alien observer in the galleries above held their breath, expecting to see the human medic dissolve in a cloud of acid. But nothing happened. The probe transmitted clear images of the internal damage, while Kaelvorth's body treated it as a natural extension of his own systems. I can't believe this is working, Yoon-ji whispered. His immune system is completely calm. How is that possible? Because we're not fighting it, Jin-ho replied, carefully maneuvering repair tools inside the wound. We're working with it. Every instrument, every medication, every procedure is designed to mimic his natural biology. For the next hour, Jin-ho performed surgery that should have been impossible. He repaired damaged organs using techniques that borrowed from Vorthak healing processes. When conventional sutures failed, he used biocompatible fibers that Kaelvorth's body would gradually absorb and replace with its own tissue. The operation was like a deadly dance between human skill and alien biology. Every move had to be perfect, every decision calculated to work with Kaelvorth's aggressive physiology instead of against it. Then, disaster struck. Kale Vorth began to regain consciousness. His higher brain functions were still offline, but his primitive hunting instincts were awakening. The medical bay's sensors detected a massive spike in his electromagnetic field as his body prepared for battle. "He's waking up," Dongmin shouted. "Biofield strength is increasing exponentially. The containment systems are overloading. Alarms," screamed as Kale Vorth's unconscious mind detected the presence of other life forms. Even without conscious thought, his body knew how to kill. Attack pheromones began flooding the air, and his electromagnetic field started interfering with every piece of equipment in the room. In the observation galleries, alien spectators scrambled for the exits. This was what they had been expecting. The moment when the apex predator would wake up and slaughter everyone in reach. But Jin Ho didn't run. Instead, he did something that horrified every watching alien. He began removing his protective gear, exposing himself directly to Kale Vorth's biological weapons. "Jin Ho, what are you doing?" Yoonji screamed. "His toxins will kill you in seconds." "Not if I'm right about human biology," Jin Ho replied, his voice steady despite the mortal danger. "Humans evolved on a death world. Our immune systems are designed to adapt to anything. If I can survive his initial attack, my body should learn to coexist with his." It was the ultimate test of human adaptability. Jin Ho stood over the partially awakened apex predator, breathing air that was becoming increasingly toxic, while Kyle Vorth's unconscious mind decided whether he was prey or something else. The next few minutes would determine whether Jin Ho's theory about human Vorthak compatibility was correct, or whether his boldness would kill them all. Jin Ho stood perfectly still as toxic air filled his lungs and Kyle Vorth's attack pheromones saturated the medical bay. Every alien observer expected to watch the human medic die in agony, dissolved by biological weapons that had killed entire medical teams. But something extraordinary was happening instead. Jin Ho's human immune system, evolved on Earth where everything was constantly trying to kill everything else, began adapting in real time. His breathing remained steady as his body processed the alien toxins and learned to neutralize them. His skin showed no signs of the acid burns that had destroyed previous medical teams. "Impossible," Dr. Somin whispered from the observation gallery. "Human biology can't adapt that quickly to Vorthak toxins." But it was happening before their eyes. Jin Ho not only survived the initial exposure, he seemed to be getting stronger. His movements became more confident as his body adjusted to the Yai, hostile environment that Kyle Vorth's unconscious mind was creating. "Jin Ho, your bio readings are incredible," Dongmin reported, his voice filled with amazement. "Your immune system is not just surviving the toxin exposure, it's learning from it. Your body is producing antibodies faster than any known species." Jin Ho nodded, never taking his eyes off Kale Vorth's face. The apex predator was caught between consciousness and unconsciousness, his primitive hunting instincts trying to decide if the human was a threat. This was the most dangerous moment of the entire operation. "He's not fully awake," Jin Ho said quietly. "His higher brain functions are still offline, but his body knows there's another life form present. Right now, his unconscious mind is deciding whether I'm prey or something else entirely." The key insight came to Jin Ho as he watched Kale Vorth's biofield fluctuate. Despite their fearsome reputation, Vorthak weren't mindless killing machines. They were highly intelligent social creatures with complex pack hierarchies. Their aggression was triggered by specific circumstances, not just the presence of other life forms. Jin Ho began to understand what no other medical professional had realized. Kale Vorth's body was attacking because it perceived the medical team as threats or prey. But what if he could convince the unconscious predator that he was something different, something symbiotic rather than threatening? "Yoonji, start monitoring my biosignature," Jin Ho said, moving closer to the operating table. "I'm going to try something that has never been attempted." "Jin Ho, please be careful," Yoonji replied, her voice tight with worry. "His electromagnetic field is still fluctuating. One wrong move and he could kill you reflexively." Jin Ho began a process that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about both species. Using a combination of pheromone manipulation and biosignature masking, he essentially convinced Kyle Vorth's unconscious body that he wasn't a separate organism, but rather a symbiotic partner. The technique required Jin-Ho to synchronize his heartbeat and breathing patterns with Kael'Vorth's irregular rhythms. It was like trying to dance with a partner who was having a seizure, but gradually their biological signatures began to align. In the observation galleries, alien medical experts watched in stunned silence as something unprecedented occurred. The most feared predator in the galaxy was accepting a human as a biological partner. Kael'Vorth's attack pheromones began to change, shifting from aggressive toxins to something closer to communication chemicals. "This is impossible," the lead crystalline healer transmitted to her colleagues. "Vorthak biology doesn't work this way. They're solitary hunters, not pack animals." But Jin-Ho had discovered something that centuries of xenobiology had missed. Vorthak were apex predators, but they weren't truly solitary. In their natural environment, they formed complex relationships with symbiotic organisms that helped them hunt and heal. The problem was that no other intelligent species had ever been able to fill that role. Until now. "Jin-Ho, your biosignature is starting to match his," Dongmin reported in amazement. "It's like your bodies are synchronizing at a cellular level." The final phase of treatment required the most dangerous procedure ever attempted in galactic medicine. Jin-Ho essentially used his own body as a living life support system, while Kael'Vorth's enhanced healing took effect. For 2 hours, human and Vorthak existed in a biological partnership that shouldn't have been possible. Jin-Ho's human adaptability allowed him to interface directly with Kael'Vorth's aggressive biology. His immune system learned to process Vorthak toxins and convert them into useful healing compounds. His bioelectric field synchronized with the predator's electromagnetic emissions, creating a stable healing environment. It was the ultimate demonstration of why humans were unique in the galaxy, not because they were the strongest or most advanced, but because they could adapt to anything. Where other species saw insurmountable barriers, humans found ways to build bridges. As the hours passed, Kael'Vorth's wounds began to heal at an unprecedented rate. His body, supported by Jin-Ho's symbiotic presence, activated healing mechanisms that had never been observed before. Damaged tissue regenerated, internal organs repaired themselves, and his vital signs stabilized. When Kael'Vorth finally opened, his eyes fully conscious for the first time since the operation began, the first thing he saw was Jin-Ho calmly monitoring his vital signs. The apex predator who had never shown mercy to any living creature, who viewed all other life as either prey or obstacles, did something that shocked every observer. He recognized Jin-Ho as an equal. The moment of recognition passed between them without words. Kael'Vorth's predatory instincts, evolved over millions of years to identify and eliminate threats, somehow classified the human medic as something unprecedented. Not prey, not threat, but partner. "How do you feel?" Jin-Ho asked, his voice steady, despite the exhaustion from hours of biological synchronization. Kael'Vorth's response came as a low rumble that the translation computer struggled to process. When the meaning finally appeared on the screens, it sent shockwaves throughout the station. "You are pack bond healer, not prey." It was the first time in recorded history that a Vorthak had used their highest form of recognition for another species. In their language, it was the designation reserved for the most trusted symbiotic partners. Dr. Hyunwoo entered the medical bay cautiously, barely believing what the monitors were telling him. "Jin-Ho, what have you done?" "I think," Jin-Ho replied, finally allowing himself to smile. "I've discovered that the most dangerous predator in the universe isn't actually a monster. He's just a very advanced life form that no one ever bothered to understand." The implications of Jin-Ho's success rippled throughout the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Medical schools rewrote their textbooks on xenobiology. The Galactic Medical Council established new protocols for treating previously impossible cases, but most importantly, other species began to reconsider their assumptions about both humans and Vorthak. Kael'Vorth recovered completely within days, but instead of immediately leaving to resume hunting, he remained at Kepler Station. For the first time in his existence, the apex predator had found something more interesting than prey. He had found a species that could match his biological intensity without being destroyed by it. The partnership that formed between Kyle Vorth and the human medical team became legendary. The most feared predator in space became an unlikely protector of human colonies, recognizing that a species capable of saving his life might be worth protecting in return. Jinho's revolutionary techniques spread throughout galactic medicine, saving lives that had previously been considered hopeless. His approach of working with alien biology instead of fighting against it opened new frontiers in xenological treatment. But perhaps the most important discovery was the simplest one. Sometimes the most primitive approach, understanding rather than dominating, could achieve what advanced technology could not. It was a lesson that humans had always known, and one that the galaxy was finally ready to learn. As Jinho returned to his regular duties, treating routine cases that seemed simple after saving the universe's most dangerous predator, he reflected on what had been accomplished. They hadn't just saved a life. They had proven that no case was truly hopeless, no species was beyond understanding, and no bridge was impossible to build. In the depths of space, among civilizations that had existed for millions of years, it had taken humanity's youngest medical tradition to show the way forward, not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through the simple human belief that every life was worth saving, no matter how dangerous or impossible the case might seem. The universe's top predator had taught them that even monsters could be healed, if only someone was brave enough to try understanding them instead of fearing them.